Yet again, the Prime Minister will be involved in meetings with President Biden not long after an event of huge significance within the US. Last time, the shootings in Uvalde. This time, the Roe v. Wade case being overturned. Jacinda Ardern is on her way to the NATO meeting in Madrid. So joining us this morning is Acting Prime Minister Grant Robertson. Morena, thanks for being with us.
Morena.
I understand the Prime Minister, according to reports this morning, was also given the opportunity to go and meet with President Zelensky in Ukraine. Is this your understanding, and has that been turned down?
Yeah, look, I understand that there was an invitation. It came quite late in the day, and unfortunately the Prime Minister's program in Europe and indeed in Australia, where she's leading a trade mission, were already set. I know that she is going to be attempting to speak to President Zelensky directly to be able to continue to show New Zealand's support for the people of Ukraine, but unfortunately that timing didn't quite work out.
Okay, so if it's just down to timing, does it mean that in the future, if the timing can work, that the Prime Minister wants to travel to Ukraine to meet with President Zelensky?
Oh, look, I'm sure if the opportunity arose and it could be worked out, that would be something that she would look at. But from New Zealand's perspective, we've been supporting the people of Ukraine through the humanitarian support, the logistics, the intelligence. We've had our army and other intelligence people up there. We're continuing to provide all the support that we can. And so those conversations with the President will be ones I know the Prime Minister will look forward to, whether they're in person or whether they're done through other means.
Let's look at another international story that has obviously captured headlines for the last few days. This is the overturning of the Roe v. Wade case. What is your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think it's incredibly distressing for women in America and indeed around the world. 50 years of what people thought was a settled situation about access to reproductive rights turned over overnight, and I can absolutely understand the distress that's caused people not just in the US but also here in New Zealand. You know, we passed the law to decriminalise abortion just a couple of years ago. Jacinda Ardern led that work. People know where she stands on it. They'll need to make their judgments about where other politicians might stand on this issue. Interesting.
So you're indicating that it could become a local political issue. We've also had the Nats MP Simon O'Connor posted today is a good day on Saturday. Now, Christopher Luxon did put a statement out and asked him to take it down. Do you feel that that has been dealt with appropriately?
Well, I think New Zealanders need to ask themselves what Christopher Luxon's position on abortion actually is. He managed to put out 2 statements in 2 days over the weekend, and previously he said that abortion is akin to murder. New Zealanders know where Jacinda Ardern and Labour stand on this. We decriminalised abortion, we put it into a health setting, and while Mr Luxon might be saying convenient political things now, I think people know where he really stands, and obviously people will judge on what he says as well as his actions.
He has been quite clear in saying that while if he was leading the next government, that it wouldn't be relitigated. He's been consistent that it wouldn't be revisited under a future national government. That's quite clear, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, does that mean that he'll make sure that all national members don't bring forward a private member's bill? Would he make sure that it wasn't part of a coalition? The issue for Christopher Luxon here is he's said what he believes about abortion, and now he's spinning to tell New Zealanders a different story. We've been consistent. We've passed the law. My view is that it is important for New Zealand women that they know that the law is settled. We have Simon O'Connor, we have Simeon Brown, we have other national MPs saying what they've said. Chris Luxon's in overdrive spinning against that, but we know what he himself believes, and in the end what you get here is either a party in Labour who have proactively set about making sure we protect rights, or a party in National who's trying to get people to thank them for somehow or other not taking those rights away. I think New Zealanders know where the parties really stand on this issue.
It's an incredibly emotive issue, and I can see that it is for you. You've posted online as well about your feelings around this, but also your feelings towards discrimination that you have experienced lately. Can you tell us a bit more about that and why you feel that that could potentially be on the rise?
Oh, well, I just think we have seen a rise in bigotry around the world, and it's something we've all got an obligation, in my opinion, to stand up to, whether it is around reproductive rights being taken away or whether it's about the rights of our trans community. I was referencing something that happened to me in Dannevirke, of all places, a couple of weeks ago, where an anti-vax person said some things. Politicians are often the subject of this kind of abuse, but in the end, that's not really the point I was making. The point I was making was that we need to come together and stand up against this kind of thing, whether it's directed at us or whether it's directed at somebody else. And in America, they thought this issue was settled for 50 years, and it wasn't. And in my view, we've all got to be vigilant to uphold the rights of all of those around us.
You mentioned the trans community there, and you did in your post too, attempts to marginalise the trans community. Are you referencing the World Swimming Body's decision to ban trans athletes from elite competition, from competing with women?
Not specifically, no. I mean, what I was talking there was more generally about the fact that we've got to make sure that our trans community is supported not only in areas like, you know, their choices to play sport or recreation, but also in access to health services, and to make sure that they're supported throughout their lives.
Do you think that decision does marginalise the trans community?
Well, I think those decisions at the international level ultimately are made by those international bodies. My job as the Minister of Sport and Recreation in particular is to make...
You also said in your Facebook post that...
I'll just finish, Melissa, because you did ask me the question.
But you did also say in your Facebook post that if you see behaviour that you don't like, you should be explicit about calling it out. And don't you have a responsibility as the Sports Minister to call it out if you think it is marginalising the trans community?
As I said, my responsibility as the Minister of Sport and Recreation is to make sure that the environment we create here in New Zealand is as inclusive as possible. And yes, we are working, as with me, with Sport New Zealand, with all the national sporting organisations to make sure at a community level sport that all New Zealanders feel safe and comfortable and welcomed in our sporting and recreation environment. When it comes to those international level things, I want to make sure that New Zealand is there, upholding the values that we believe in. Ultimately, those decisions will get made by international bodies. It is a really complex issue at the elite level. We do need to make sure that in each case, we're looking not just at the views of one side or the other, that we make sure that we do create a fair playing field, and a playing field that people can involve themselves in. It is complex at the elite level, but my responsibility at the community level I'm going to uphold, which is that we make sure everyone feels welcome in our sporting system.
Do you feel that that's at risk at the moment? Because there are a lot of organisations that are reviewing their policies around this.
So that's exactly the reason why Sport New Zealand is currently consulting on a set of guidelines for our national sporting organisations to make sure that we do uphold those values at the community level. It is, you know, part of being a New Zealander to be able to go out and involve yourself in sport, involve yourself in recreation. What we're doing is making sure we give those guidelines to national sporting organisations to facilitate that. That's important. It's something I can do, and it's something I'm committed to.
Deputy Prime Minister Grant Robertson, thanks very much for being with us this morning.